What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast for week number 2 of the NFL season. Week 1 is officially in the books after another prime time fourth quarter collapse last night with the Bears. I had the Bears on in that game. Rough week 1 for me. I won on Thursday Night Football. We cashed the Raiders spread and money line on Sunday, but the Ravens collapse really killed us. That was the biggest play of the weekend, was on the Ravens. So if we hit that, we actually would have been fine, but it's caused a big unit swing, obviously. Then we had the Bears last night just to pour a little salt on the wound. I went back and looked. Week 1s are typically my weakest weeks. So I struggled this time. I mean, one of the things that I just don't understand is these fourth quarters. Like I get if you just have bad reads and you lose a bet, but what is with these fourth quarter collapses where teams just like, I don't know if it's a new strat where certain teams hold, kind of like keep things tight under the vest and then open things up in the fourth to kind of like ambush their opponent almost, if this is like a new thing. Because I don't remember, I've been gambling for a long time and I don't remember the fourth quarter collapses being this prominent. And it seems to happen more in prime time. Maybe it's the lights, the fact that there's more viewers than ever, there's more sports bettors than ever. Those could be related to it, but we'll try to bounce back in week 2. It's obviously a very long season. We did well preseason, so that's keeping us in a decent spot. So we'll look to bounce back in week 2. And there's some spots on the week 2 board that I really love. So I've already sent out some plays this morning, and reminder for that, if you want to get my free picks texted to you, you can text the word free to the number on the screen. And if you just want to sign up and get all full access, there's a link down in the description for deals for you. So let's start off with Thursday Night Football. We've got the Commanders taking on the Packers. This actually looks like a really, really good game. Both teams are 1-0. Both teams come off of wins at home. The Packers get to stay home. Washington traveling. Line opened up 3 or 2.5 if you got lucky. If you played this very early, you got a 2.5 below 3 if you like Green Bay. We're now sitting at 3 in a couple of spots, but mostly 3.5 across the board at minus 105, or a couple of books that I'm looking at have 3.5 even money. To me, this one is really, and total of 48, by the way, 48.5. To me, this one's really simple. Like the Commanders were great last year as underdogs because they were constantly overlooked and they were getting big numbers, right? 7, 6, 9 in that playoff game against the Lions. And they were cashing these spreads like crazy. Now they're getting respected in the market. All right. This line opening around right around anywhere close to 3 to me is just not close to the true line. I make it 5, and I can argue that it should be 5.5. I'm very high on the Packers. I don't think that week 1 game performance against the Lions was fluky at all. I think they're right there with Philly for the NFC. I have a divisional future on them to win the NFC North. I think this team is really good. I think that the addition of Parsons should help them a lot in this game. He was limited in week 1. He should play more this week. But that familiarity, don't forget, he played in the NFC East with the Cowboys, right? So he played 2 games against the Commanders last year, had 4 sacks against Jaden, 4.5 sacks in those 2 games against Jaden Daniels. That insight as to his style of play and everything like that could be big for the Packers in this matchup. Also, I want to look at coaching, right? We always got to look at coaching. I think the short week favors LaFleur, who's been great in these spots, over Dan Quinn. You've got trends as well. I think LaFleur is 26-15 as a home favorite. He's really good early season, man. You look at some of these coaching trends, and some guys just do much better when they have the summer to prepare. They come out hot, and other guys start off slow. It's just all about styles. But LaFleur is great early in the season. The one that caught my eye, you can find trends on Washington as a dog for sure. But like I said, you have to consider the price of those lines. You have to consider where those lines are sitting. A lot of those lines were north of 6, getting key numbers 6 and 7, getting full touchdowns. At this number, closer to 3, I think this line should be closer to 5. So I like Green Bay. The last trend I'll give you, the LaFleur at home as a favorite when he's coming off of a divisional win like they did in week 1. He's a perfect 6-0 against the spread. So I like Green Bay in this game. I would not be worried about laying the 3.5. I think you're going to see some 4s start to pop up, probably. If not later today, then probably on Wednesday, you'll see some 4s pop up on this game. So I like the Packers in this one. I think there's just too much physicality. The defense is really strong. I like the way they looked on Sunday. I think they're going to look good against this Washington team who did it. Washington won the game, obviously, but the Giants, like they did pretty much everything you could possibly do wrong. They looked terrible, and they were still, that game was not put away until pretty late. So I'm not too, you kind of peg teams in the offseason that you think will take a step back, who overperformed last year, or will take, I was heavy on the Lions with futures last year. They all cashed because they went crazy, 14 wins, 15 wins, whatever it was. And I thought they'd take a step back this year. I think Washington will take a step back this year. I think Houston will take a step back this year. So I have all these teams that I want to sell, teams that I want to buy. And, that's the game that we play. Green Bay is definitely a buy team for me. I like the spot for them on Thursday Night Football. All right, moving over to Sunday, we've got the Patriots taking on the Dolphins, AFC East divisional matchup with a pick'em basically line. Dolphins -1 at home, although I'm starting to see some 1.5s. Total is at 44 as of right now. To be honest with you, I had the Dolphins in week 1. Again, rough week 1 for me. Don't even want to look at this team. Don't even want to look at this game. There are trends here to support the Patriots. I think the question you have to ask yourself is, because typically in the past, this would be a spot where I just run in on Miami, right? The team that scored the least points in week 1 get obliterated. They look completely lost, locker room in disarray. They're fighting each other. Tua looks like, I hate to say it, but maybe took too many hits to the head. He's not processing his reads, whatever the case may be. But this is exactly the type of game where me, the handicapper, would run to take Miami, because it's rock bottom price, right? I mean, even if I downgrade Miami in my ratings, I still got this line at least should be 2.5. So you're getting 1. And the market looks like it's buying it a little bit, but there's action on both sides. The main question you have to ask yourself here is if this team is broken, because it's one thing to just have a bad week, but if this team is rotted on the inside and McDaniels is in my opinion, not a great coach to kind of lead you out of the dark. Once it starts to spiral, I think it will spiral. Is this the beginning of that spiral? Maybe. I mean, they never, I don't think at any point last season looked the way they looked in week 1 this year. It looked like they just didn't prep all summer. The Patriots was a team that I'm looking to fade this year. They're on one of my teams I think will not be, they won't take a step back because they were bad last year, but I don't buy the hype on them. So, the win total I thought was too high, 8.5, all the Drake May stuff. I like him. I don't think he's terrible, but I just don't love the team. I don't love the coach, Vrabel. I think he's more of a defensive coach. And so it worked out with the Raiders in week 1, but the defense was good in that game. I watched most of that game because we had the Raiders +3. And, they did a good job against the Raiders offense that I think will give teams trouble this year. They got a lot of weapons. Gino, he had that one tipped interception, but other than that, he looked pretty sharp throwing the ball. Genti's only going to get better. So against what I think is a above average offense, the Patriots held them to 20 points. Now they lost the game, but I think the defense can do something here against Miami. For me, I would lean Patriots in teasers, 1.5 up to 7.5. That's the way I would look to play this game. Taking New England up, but man, I'm probably just going to pass, but if I do play this game, it will be in that way. I will tease the Patriots and find a second leg. But I'll just say, if you're like me in handicapping and you like to buy low specifically, not necessarily sell high all the time, but buy low, this is as low as it's going to get for the Miami Dolphins, laying a point at home against Drake May and Mike Vrabel. I mean, I don't know. I want to do it, but I don't know if I can do it because I think it just might be deeper than what's on the field. But that's how I play. I would lean, let me get you the trend in that game, actually. It's a trend for, let me open it up here. So it's winless, let's see. Yeah, it's winless road teams. So it's road teams that are catching points, okay, in week 2 after they lost outright as a home favorite in week 1. This is an insane record, 48-19 against the spread, 72%. That's active on the Patriots. So I like them in teasers. Like I said, I think this could, I don't see either team blowing. I think this is probably a 3-point finish, regardless of who wins the game. So I like New England as a teaser leg in that one. All right, let's move on. We got the Jaguars taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals -3.5 at home, total 49.5. Both teams got a win in week 1, but I think both wins were a little bit misleading. The Browns miss an extra point, which would have sent that game to overtime, would have tied the game, and who knows what happens after that. The Bengals did not look good, and there is that ongoing theme of the Bengals early in the first 2 or 3 weeks not being themselves, not being prepared. It looks like that's continuing this season, so I'm just not sure how you lay points with them, even at home. But the one thing that surprised me a little bit is that we kind of know their defense is not great. It's not going to improve significantly from how bad it was last year. But the one thing that caught me was that the Browns defense, and I know a lot of that is Garrett, but they did give Burrow, Burrow did not look as sharp at all to me. And I know a lot of that is Myles Garrett and how bad the Cincy offensive line is. But I think Jacksonville can hang in this game. I would lean Jags plus the 3.5 in this one. Now they played the Carolina Panthers. I understand the Panthers are not going to be good. I fell for the Bryce, the young hype that his improved play at the end of last season. He looked horrific. But I do like how the Jags play. I thought the Jags they impressed me in week 1. Thought they were pretty good. So I'd be looking to buy here on the Jaguars, taking 3.5. I haven't played this yet or anything, but it's an interesting game. I would lean slightly to the over. These teams are going to throw the football. They've got weapons. That the Bengals defense is horrific. There's a system of road underdogs that coming off of a really bad season. I think it's a season of, let me find it. I think it's if they won 5 or less games, but just let me double check that before I actually give it to you. But it's active on the Jaguars. So it's road dogs who won 6 or less games. So if you won 6 or less games in the previous season, you're a road dog in the first 2 months of the season. So the first 8 weeks, they're 60% against the spread, 156 and 106. So decent sample size. That's active on Jacksonville plus 3.5. That's the way I lean, but I probably won't play it. This game to me is just, I think it's going to be a lot of offense, but the total is set high. I wouldn't touch it. To me, this game's a pass. All right, let's move on to the next one on my live odds screen here. We've got the New York Giants taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys now out to a 6-point favorite in this one. Early look ahead, I think was like 3 or 3.5 on this one. So if you bet this early, you got a great number. 44.5 is the total. My initial gut lean on this game is over. I think the Giants, you scored 6 points in week 1. The Giants got to do a little better than that. I think they're going to have a slightly better game plan. The Dallas defense did look good against Philadelphia. They're not the most talented defense, but you got to give kudos to the effort was there. The energy was there on the sidelines. I think Schottenheimer has kind of changed the vibe feels different. The culture maybe feels different. So I could see them being a solid team. I think their offense can be for sure a top 10 offense if Dak stays healthy. They've got plenty of weapons. They've got a running game now. So I like the way they looked offensively against a pretty good Eagles defense, even though they've got some turnover in the secondary. So I think they can do some things here against the Giants defense as long as they can hold them off in terms of the Giants defensive front. So I lean over. I think the Giants are going to they're probably going to be playing from behind and have to throw the football. So I lean slightly over in this game. I also think that, my leans this week are like over because you see everyone talking about how week 1, all the games went under, right? What was it? 13-3 to the under in week 1. And then everyone starts jumping on the unders. Lines get depressed a little bit. Like there are trends to this. You don't want to try to guess these because it's too difficult, but there are certain weeks where you just feel like, all right, there's no way that can continue, right? Like favorites went 13-3 straight up in week 1. And it's not like you have double-digit spreads all over the place. You didn't have a single double-digit spread. So the math says that some of those dogs should win outright, right? But very few of them did. So, and one of them wasn't even one of them flipped. It was that the Buffalo ended up flipping to a dog and then winning the game. So just the closing line is counted. But just little interesting stuff like that makes me think about those things. I lean slightly over in the game. I lean Dallas in the game. But now that it's out to 6, I probably... I would say anything less than 6 would be playable for me here, but not out to 6 or 6.5. I can't play the Cowboys that high. All right, Rams taking on the Titans. LA is laying 5.5 on the road in Tennessee. Total 42 or 42.5, depending on where you look. This is a spot where Tennessee took some early money. They were 6. The 6s are now gone completely out of the market. You've got 5.5 everywhere. The Rams are... I gave you guys last week. I said I lean Titans in week 1. All right. They ended up barely covering. They covered if you got 8.5. If you got 7.5, you lost on the hook. So, excuse me. They ended up covering. So naturally you would think, all right, well, Cam Ward faced a brutal defense in week 1, one of the best in the NFL. He only put up 12 points. He didn't, a lot of incompletions, couple of drop passes, I will say, that where he threw the ball, I thought they should have, there were plays that should have been made that were not made, that maybe may have skewed the perception on him a little bit. I didn't think he was that terrible. I thought he took some bad sacks, but other than that, I think he's going to be a good. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I think he can throw the ball. He's pretty accurate. Guys got to catch the ball at the end of the day, right? So, slight lean here to Tennessee catching the points, but this is the thing with these teams, right? If you want to buy these gross, ugly dogs at home, you got to do it against like middling teams. You can't do it against guys like McVay. And this is the only thing that keeps me off of a game like this. Like, I don't want to mess around with like Sean McVay, who's a great early season head coach, a great preparer, excellent on the road. Remember, the Rams don't have a great home field advantage. So when they go on the road, it's not much different. When there are big games in LA, lots of the opposing team's fans are there, right? So it's not a great home field. So it's the environment, actually, believe it or not, and I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but it's not that different from them being at home. So them on the road, and it shows in their record. I think McVay has a great record as a road favorite. I'll have to pull it up and throw it up in the video, but he's got a great record as a road favorite. The number to me is right where I make it. I got it at 5. I have it at 5 in my power ratings. It's 5.5. I'm just going to pass on the game, but one of those games where if this gets up higher, maybe tease the Rams down. Rams in money line parlays, maybe. I just don't want to touch this. I want to touch this Titans team in a better spot than taking on a coach like this, right? Against a team that's up. And by the way, the Rams defense is really good too. That's a good defense. And I know it was Houston week 1, but they're good. A lot of young, fast players on that. That's an up and coming defense. So wouldn't be shocked here if the Rams win and cover. I like LA. All right, you've got the Bills taking on the Jets, AFC East divisional battle. Big home dog in this game. The Jets are still +7 at a couple of books, but the 7.5s are gone. Well, I think it opened 8. 8 gone, 7.5 gone. Most 7s are gone, and you're sitting basically with a consensus across the board here of 6.5. So Jets +6.5 at home. That is where I would lean, but I can't play this one. This off the key number of 7. But that would be my lean in this game. I also lean over. The total is sitting at 45.5. I would lean slightly to the over in this one as well. For the simple fact that, yes, the Jets offense looked really good in week 1, although they were playing against a Steelers defense that I don't think is that great. They've got some individual great players on there, but I don't think it's that great. And also, you didn't really know what you were getting with this Jets offense. A lot of new personnel, and they proved to be very explosive. Fields looked very good. I think he can do some of that against his Buffalo defense, who just got completely torn. I mean, think about what the Ravens did to them on Sunday night. Ran the ball all over them. And you don't have a Derrick Henry on the Jets, but the Jets have the personnel to have a good running attack because you've got a very mobile quarterback. Breece Hall is very good. Braylon Allen is solid as a backup. So the Jets have the pieces. Maybe they don't have the best offensive line, but they've got the pieces to run the ball on you. And the Bills' defense is susceptible to the run. So my lean is to the Jets, but I think the stronger play here is on the over 45.5. And on the other side, man, if the Jets could not stop old man Rodgers, what are they doing against Josh Allen? And the Jets already beat the Bills at home in this exact spot last year. The line was, I think, 2.5. But they had that walk-off punt return for a touchdown. Like, you're going to beat them 2 times in a row in your building? I don't know. To me, I lean Jets, but I'm not going to play it unless I get back to the key number of 7.5. But my stronger lean is to the over in this game. Just don't see how I think both offenses are going to have success. And Buffalo is like in kind of a unique, like when a team has a crazy comeback like that and wins a late game in prime time, they're usually fade material the next week. But again, it's got to be against the right opponent. Like it's crucial that you look at that. Don't just assume the spot is good. It's got to be against an applicable opponent. In this case, I think it's kind of in between, which is why I still lean to the home dog. And it's a big number, right? Like these home divisional dogs didn't do well in week 1, but all of them were getting less than 3 points at home. So now that you have one that's finally getting a big number, I think you could probably see a Bills win with a Jets cover. All right, we're going over to the NFC North. Bears taking on the Lions. This was 4.5 last night before Monday Night Football. And once the world saw what the Bears did in the fourth quarter, this is now out to 5.5 and potentially, there is a 6. Bovada has a 6. A couple of 6s will start to pop up, and I'm not surprised at this at all. My power ratings make this game 6, even when it was 4.5. So I think the market is just getting to where it's supposed to be. You've got a lot of stuff to consider here, right? Excuse me. Caleb Williams looked great on drive one. After the Minnesota defense settled in and adjusted, it was lights out. I mean, he did not do, I mean, that. And here's the thing. The plays were there, right? And he was just missing guys left and right. Call it pressure from the O-line. I it was weird to me that they didn't use him as much, like rolling out. Like I thought with Ben Johnson having a more mobile quarterback, like he would roll him out a lot more play action, a lot of designed runs for him. There wasn't much of that. There was play action, but there wasn't a lot of like rollouts and designed runs. You got to get it because he is this one of these unique quarterbacks that you can see it if you watch the game. He throws better on the run. It's weird. If he's just standing in the pocket, he's airmailing the ball. He's throwing it at guys' feet. And when he's on the run, he's throwing dots all across the field. So he's not good over the middle and he's not good in the pocket. It's kind of like this unique situation. You want to get him to the edges. So it was an interesting, and with all that being said, they still had the lead going, that 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. They blow it. So the Lions now come back home off of a pretty tough loss. First game with all new coordinators on the road, divisional opponent, one of the best home fields in football, Lambeau. So understandable. At home, they're much better. Goff is north of 70% at home since he joined the Lions against the spread. The last 10 games that the Lions have lost under Dan Campbell, the following game they're 9-1 against the spread. And I think I do think they're gonna just crush the Bears in this game. So I lean to the Lions. 6 might be a little rich for me, but if this were to get back down, if I can grab a 5.5 and I'm still interested, fine. You know what I would do here though is Lions in a money line parlay. Pick, maybe like a Lions Rams money line parlay or something like that. Lions, Ravens. I don't even know. That might be a little too high, but Lions Rams might be good. The one thing about parlay now. I will parlay throughout the year because, one of the biggest misconceptions, by the way, in sports betting is like that you only squares parlay. It's not true at all. So I will find spots to parlay, but it's got to be a good situational spot where I think the line is accounting for it, maybe. So it's like a little inflated, but you could still take the team to just win. Combine that with another spot that has good value on the money line. You just have to kind of pick your spots and be careful. And you want to obviously do 2-3 legs. You don't want to be going to 6, 7, 8 leg parlays. So that is where the squares go. But plenty of pros, plenty of sharps bet these little 2-leggers, 3-leggers that have great value on them. So I'm considering maybe like a Rams Lions is looking like the most likely one for me. Maybe Arizona, we'll get to that game. But to me, this game with Detroit, I like Detroit in the game. But the better angle to me is finding some way to get them in a money line, just to win the game. So whether that be with another teaser piece or because you can tease down 6, you can go 6 down to 0, right? Something like that. But I want to be involved in just having the Lions to win straight up. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Next game, you've got the Seahawks taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, this was a 2.5-point spread, and we're starting to see 3s. And I got to say, I'm a little surprised. I lean Seattle. The market's going the opposite way. The market likes Pittsburgh. I lean Seahawks here getting 3. I thought the defense was really impressive. I know the Niners have injuries and they lost Kittle in the middle of that game, but I like their defense a lot. I don't love their offense, but I do like their defense. The under in this game is interesting to me. 40, 41. Now 39.5 just popped up as I'm recording this on my live odds screen here in front of me. So I could lean a little bit under. Why? Because that Pittsburgh Jets game was very misleading with how many points were scored. And now people are going to just assume with Rodgers at the helm, the Steelers are this offensive juggernaut. He was terrible last season. All right. He had all the motivation to come into week 1 and try to beat the Jets. He had a lot of time to prepare, so he was rested. His old man body was not all banged up and beat up. He took sacks in that game. I think this week's going to be a lot different against a much better defense. So I lean under. I lean Seattle getting 3 if you can get 3. Seattle in teasers if you can't get 3, 2.5 up to 8.5. I like that as well. I'm just not buying that the Steelers have figured it out offensively just because they got him. They got some weapons, but I like Seattle. I think Seattle is the side in this game. And actually, there's I did want to talk about this system or this trend about how people kind of always assume, you'll hear this a lot throughout the season, like, oh, it's a Pacific time zone team, a West Coast team going out east, and that's a disadvantage for them. That is, guys, that's a myth. Like, that used to be true, and the data used to support it. It has not been true for a while now, and I'll literally give you the stats. So West Coast teams going east, the last, let's see, what is this? 10 years. So 88 and 40, 88, 54 and 4 against the spread, 62% for the West Coast team. That's supposed to be at a disadvantage, and already 1-0 this season, with the one being the Raiders, +3. And let me tell you exactly what it is. So it's visitor team coming from the Pacific or Mountain over to the Eastern time zone. This is last 5 years. So this week, here's a little thing for you guys. You got two. You got the Seahawks and you got the Broncos laying 2 at Indy, which we'll get to that game as well. Week 1 just had one. It was the Raiders. They cashed. So obviously in week 1, there is no real like shorter travel because you have all time to prep. But it's not a disadvantage. It's not what you think it is. Also, after a close game, there's another system here popping up. I'll share this one with you. Teams that win, teams that lose. Teams that are dogs. Okay, so they're a dog. They're coming off of a game where they lost by 3 or less, which happened to the Seahawks against the Niners. Okay, these teams are 37, 17, and 2 ATS. That's 68% against the number. And this week you've got Seahawks +3. You've got Falcons. We'll get to that game as well. Falcons getting 5.5 against the Vikings. All right, back to so lean Seattle in that game. All right, next game up is the 49ers taking on the New Orleans Saints. I don't have much to say about this game. The problem is that Kittle's out now. He's going to miss a few games. Purdy got hurt. He might not play for this game, which is why line went down from 5.5 to 4.5. If he's out, it'll go down even more. But I don't trust Rattler and the Saints. This is just, I'm telling you, don't stay away. Survivor picks. Stay away from San Francisco. Don't tease this game. Stay away. Like, Rattler could get destroyed by this defense, or Purdy could not play and they lose. Like, just stay away from this game. You don't want these games where there's way too many question marks. So hard pass for me. If Purdy does not play, that 4.5 will be gone. It'll go down. And, at that point, I just don't have I just don't have anything either way on this game. This is one of the only games on the slate where I don't have much to say about it. The Panthers taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona laying 6.5 at home, and your total is 44.5. You're going to see a lot of Panthers. You're going to see a lot of people back in the Panthers here. I don't know. They play so poorly on the road, and I thought they were going to be better. They still did not look prepared. Bryce Young still looked confused out there. The Jaguars are better defensively this year, and Arizona is an okay defensive team. They did win and cover on the road in week 1, but it was against the Saints. You know what interests me in this game, and I'll have to look it up, but one of the things that I've been doing, which I did on Thursday Night Football in week 1, was if I like the dog, but I don't love where the spread's at or whatever, I don't love something else about the game, I'll just play the dog's team total to go over. And I kind of like that for Carolina after a brutal showing in week 1 against a team that I think is better defense. I think the Jaguars are better defensively than the Arizona Cardinals. So I may look at a Carolina team total. I think that's interesting for this game. I'll have to see where it's at, but I think they could put up some points here after. They just looked, I don't know. They did not look good in week 1. So I would stay away from the spread. This is another game where, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to find a spot to just have a team win straight up, Arizona and moneyline parlays would interest me. That in teasers, if this gets to 7 or even at 6.5, you can take them down to 0.5. That's fine. I don't think Carolina's going to win this game, to be honest. I think there'll be better spots to back the Panthers, maybe as home dogs. I don't think this is one of them, to be honest. And I don't even love Arizona. I don't think they're very good, but the Panthers just look brutal, man. And the coach is not helping. He's not. Sometimes you can just tell with coaches, right? Like if it's happening or if it's not. Like I thought even in the Bears loss, I thought Ben Johnson's bringing some good things to the table. It's just not happening there with Canales. So I would stay away from that game. If anything, try to get Arizona in to win straight up. All right. Broncos taking on the Colts. Bo Nix and company laying 2 at Indianapolis. Probably the biggest surprise of week 1 was the Colts performance. Totals at 42.5 in this game. You have to ask yourself this. I'm not high on the Colts this year. I didn't think that they were going to be very good. I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. But you have to ask yourself how much of that game was Miami's incompetence. I think a big part of it was. Really big. And also how much of that was the first game after the death of Jim Irsay, which I did not, I would say, adequately feel like I didn't think it was going to be that much of a motivating factor. Because sometimes these things get overblown, right? And at the end of the day, still the other team wants to win too, right? It's not like they're just going to give you the game. But the problem is that other team was the Dolphins. So to me, that week 1 said a lot more about Miami than it did about Indianapolis. But the question you've got to ask yourself is how much, right? So if you think this Colts team has suddenly figured it out defensively, and the Broncos did not look good offensively against the Titans. So if you think the Colts are onto something on defense with Anarumo now as the DC, who I like, then maybe you got something here, right? I think that offense is going to struggle against Denver. Okay, the Miami defense was, I don't know what the hell I saw in that game. Denver's going to be a much different story. They're going to pressure Jones, who is terrible under pressure in his career, has horrible stats. His weapons are still not great. I mean, Warren's going to be a very good tight end, but that's about it. That's all they have on that team. So the fact that they were able to like spread it out is a result of Miami's just horrific play. You're not going to be able to do that against good defenses. So I think they're going to struggle. Yeah, I could see a lean to the under in this one, 42.5. The market is dropping. I agree with that, but I kind of like Denver in the game. I kind of like Denver. Again, the West Coast team going east. This is if there's any game on the board, guys, that is your buy low, sell high, it's going to be this one, right? Because you're going to sell the Colts off of a huge blowout win, now coming back home, and you want to buy the Broncos over a very non-impressive win, a non-emphatic, just like a nonchalant, push this team to the side. They stink. They win but don't cover. So here's your buy low, sell high spot, right? You want to buy low on the Broncos, who you think are better than they looked in week 1. And you want to sell high on the Colts, who you think are not as good as they looked in week 1. For me, I'll probably just end up passing because I want to buy low on teams that didn't look good, who I actually think are really good. And I don't think the Broncos are that. I think the Broncos are just one of these teams that beat up on bad teams. And when they face average to really good teams, they kind of struggle. That was indicative. That's exactly what happened last season. And I think that they're pretty much the same. So probably we'll just stay away. But if I were to play this, I'd take Denver -2. I wouldn't hate Indy in a teaser up to 8 or 8.5. That's fair. You're getting all the key numbers, but my lean in this one is Denver. So, all right, Super Bowl rematch in the 4:00 window on Sunday. Philadelphia at KC. Philly -1. Pretty much across the board. I am seeing a pick. Actually, FanDuel's got KC now favored. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bouncing back and forth, but let's go with Philly -1 as the consensus line. 46.5 is your total. Obviously, you've got the revenge spot here to consider. You've got the fact that neither team really looked good in week 1. The Philly won but didn't cover. KC did not look. I mean, the Chargers kind of, if Mahomes wasn't like unbelievable, the Chargers might run away with that game. So they look pretty good. I like the Chargers, how they looked in that game. To me, this is like, you just got to think, like, do you want to play the revenge spot in me? Like, I probably will just pass on this game altogether. If you got 1.5 on either side, you can tease, right? Because these are both good teams. I don't think either team would get blown out in this game, or low chance that either team gets blown out. And Philly just didn't look like, you talk about the Super Bowl hangover. I think the Eagles now know how important the later in the season is. Like, they just want to get these wins, but they're not, they kind of just coasted against the Cowboys. The motivation here should be on the Chiefs side, because number one, because they lost in week 1, and number 2, because this is your revenge spot. I can give you the revenge stats, by the way, on this game. Let's open up KC Philly over in my Bet Labs. Yeah, you've got the play of 0-1 teams in week 2. They're 60% against the spread. And 0-1 teams that are home dogs in week 2. They're 62% against the spread. Then you've got Mahomes, right, as a small favorite, 19-8, or sorry, a small favorite or dog 19-8 against the spread, 70%. In revenge games, meaning in a game where he's line where in a game at home, when Mahomes is at home and the line is less than 3 and he lost to that team in their previous matchup, he's 5-2 against the spread. So that's your revenge stat right there. But, to me, lean slightly to the under in this game, as I think both defenses will be better than they were in week 1. And the smallest of leans to KC, but I'm just not interested in playing. I think you've got better spots on the board in this game, even though it's a very high profile game. But that sometimes makes it not, the value kind of gets sucked out when everyone's looking at the game. So I'll probably pass on that one. All right. The last one on Sunday is Sunday Night Football. You've got the Falcons on the road against the Vikings. 5.5s were there, kind of been taken down now. 4.5. There's a 5 still. Bet Online has a 5. But 4.5 pretty much across the board. I lean that way too. I like the Falcons in this game. My numbers, let me pull up my ratings because I remember there was a discrepancy in this game. So I've got Atlanta 1. So 2, so that's 1 at 2. Yeah, so I've got this line at 3. So I like the Falcons getting 4.5. 5 is even better if you can get it. So I like Atlanta in this spot. I think the Vikings they're an interesting team, and they're a team that I faded in week 1, so I probably will not look to do it again. But I do lean that way with the Falcons, just because you're around that key number of 3. Like the fact that I make this 3 and it's 4.5, so I'm getting 1.5 around a key number, makes it compelling. But I also have to ask myself if I want to upgrade the Vikings after what I saw. I mean, I'm not a JJ McCarthy guy. Like I thought he was all right in college, but there's no denying that the fourth quarter was impressive. He just turned it on. I don't know what, again, it just goes back to the talk of why these teams implode in the fourth quarter. He looked lost all game, and then suddenly out of nowhere, he's throwing touchdowns all over the field. I don't know what this phenomenon is, but he looked great, and then he was fired up. The team seems to like him. You have to consider all that. And that's stuff that you wouldn't know coming into the game, but you have to consider that he looked poised. So for me, I lean Falcons. And just got to be a little bit, when you come back and win like that on the road in the divisional game, maybe there's a little letdown going home. I thought the Falcons were one of the misleading finals of week 1. I thought they should have beaten Tampa Bay, but they lost. Obviously, the missed kick by Koo was tough, but they pretty much outplayed the Buccaneers. And I like this. I like Penix. I like this or Penix, however you pronounce his name. I like this Falcons team. Their running backs are obviously really good. Bijan's amazing. So I think you can do some stuff here against Flores, who's it's really good too. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough game to call. My lean is Atlanta, but I may ultimately end up passing. Maybe look at that team total angle that I'm telling you, it worked, especially in I did some research on this, especially in non-divisional games like this one. Non-divisional dogs, if you lean to the dog, and if you're worried but they might not cover, the team total sometimes can be the way to go. I may look at Atlanta team total after they struggled against the Bucks they moved the ball, but they just couldn't get enough points on the board. So kind of like that angle. I'll have to dig in a little bit deeper. All right, now we move over to Monday. We've got 2 games on Monday Night Football. I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't like when they do these Monday Night Football doubleheaders. I just give me one great game to watch and I'm good. But anyway, 7:00 Eastern on Monday night. You've got the Buccaneers taking on the Texans. Houston minus 2.5 at home. 42.5 is your total. Now you're starting to see Houston 3 at home. So I'll give you guys full transparency. I played the Texans in this game. I like this spot for them. Tampa Bay, again, one of the misleading results of week 1, their win over the Falcons. They got thoroughly outplayed. I'll shout out to, if you guys want a good follow on Twitter, Sam Hoppen. Well, a lot of you, if you already follow like NFL analytics, may know him already, but he posts this really neat chart after each week. And it's called like, did we lose that bad or something like that? Or how badly did each team get beaten? And it kind of shows you like the misleading final scores. And one of the most misleading was Tampa's win over the Falcons. So it kind of shows like based on the EPA and stuff like that in the middle of the game, which team should have won and it pointed heavily to Atlanta. And I agree. I watched a lot of that game, and I think that Falcons should have won that game. So I'm not super high on Tampa. You've got issues with the offensive line. Without Wirfs, that offensive line is just in flux, and it's not a lot of, they need him back. He's like the anchor. Going up against this Houston pass rush is really good. They're ferocious. The defense is still going to be excellent. I know their offense looks completely lost, but again, I love that Rams defense. So week one, you don't want to overreact. I think Houston will come back home against a slightly weaker defense, do a little bit better. Against a banged up offensive line, their defense should be able to get a lot of pressure on Baker, who doesn't have great stats against the blitz, against pressure. So I like Houston in the spots. Kind of like your typical, we talked about buy low, sell high. To me, this is one of those clear spots on the board that is buy low and sell high. So I like Houston in the game. Would also lean under in the game, but you could have got a 43. It's now below the key number of 43. I think Houston minus 2.5 is the way to go in this one. That's what I took. All right, the second game and the final game on our slate is the Chargers taking on the Raiders in Vegas, LA, minus 3.5, minus 3 on a couple of spots at 120. Totals at 47.5 or 47, depending on where you shop. Like I said before already, cashed on the Raiders in week one, but this is a spot where I do not want to go back to them. The defense played well, but I think, just as I said in the Miami Indy game, I think that said more about the Patriots offense than the Raiders defense. I think they're going to get pushed around by the Chargers, who are incredibly physical, really good running the football. Herbert is playing on a different level. Harbaugh gives them something he's never had before. He's such a good head coach. They're well prepared. There's just not a team that's going to beat them. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. They're not going to beat themselves. You got to beat them. And I don't think the Raiders are good enough to beat them. So I think putting up 20 points on the Patriots and getting a nice win is one thing, but now you're stepping up in class. And I really think the Chargers are one of the best teams in the AFC. So I would lean strongly to their side. There are threes out there, so shop for this. If there's ever a game where there's 3.5, but there's a 3, you got to do everything you can to try to get that 3. It's a big deal. If it's a different story, if it's 3.5 across the board, then it's just about the price that you get. So like 3.5, 110, right? Maybe you get 3.5, 105. Okay, that maybe you get 3.5 even money. Like there's a 3.5 even money on Green Bay out there right now. That's great. That makes it worth it. But if there's a 3 out there, you should go get the 3. So there's a 3. I believe DraftKings has a 3. No, FanDuel has a 3 for the Chargers. So anyway, my lean in the game is Chargers. And I just think, like I said, another thing to consider here, Harbaugh as a road favorite with LA, since he's taken over 6-1 ATS as a road favorite. They travel well. And I'm going to repeat what I said about the Rams. I think it's because the two LA teams do not have a great home field. A lot of opposing fans go there. So when they go on the road, the environment is not that different. That's really just my personal theory on it. And I think that's why those two teams perform well on the road, on top of the fact that they're just so well coached. If you want to lay points on the road in the NFL, you want very good teams that are well coached. You don't want mediocre, middle of the road teams that are like, that's why I would be comfortable like laying 2 with Denver, because Payton knows what he's doing. Harbaugh knows what he's doing. McVay knows what he's doing. These guys have their teams prepared on the road. So lean Chargers in that game, and that wraps up the NFL Week 2 slate. I think it's going to be a much better week, man. Week 1, honestly, Week 1 would have been totally fine if the Ravens didn't do what they did. That Ravens loss was deflating, depressing, and it was our biggest bet, so it cost a huge unit swing. Week 2 is going to be a lot better as we move forward here through the NFL season. Guys, thank you as always for watching. I'll try to do another video throughout the week. Maybe I'll do a Thursday Night Football video. I definitely want to start doing props with you guys. If you guys want player props, by the way, free DFS picks or player props, I give them all out for free. They're not included in the paid service. I give all my props for free. So if you want those, follow on TikTok at Lock and Cash Fantasy, Instagram at Lock and Cash Fantasy. That's where I post. I post my DFS picks over there. I'm going to try to do a weekly player prop video here on YouTube as well. And we'll get it going with that. All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you later. See you next week.